Elliott, I've heard recently that you met with an entrepreneur. Can you tell us more about this?
Yeah, I recently interviewed Claire Fairfield. He's a venture capitalist and entrepreneur. He's currently managing director at Concerto Advisors, Inc. and the chairman at Venture Capital Institute.
What exactly is a venture capitalist?
A venture capitalist raises pools of money for investors and looks for investment opportunities in early stage and startup companies.
Now, when the money is returned to the investors, what is money, securities, and stocks?
Most commonly, securities are the returns because they can grow. If they're not as confident in the company, then they'll just cash out.
So securities, are those the same things as bonds that gain interest?
Yep, exactly.
Are investors one person, or can it be the company, or just an corporation?
Singular investors are known as angel investors, but most of the time they're just a corporation. Insurance companies invest a lot, and big companies like that with a lot of money.
When someone invests, are the venture capitalists held liable for the losses and gains? What all do were all they accounted for?
No, it's a limited liability partnership. So no, the venture capitalists have no loss in it. The only thing that can be lost is the money that was invested, and so they're all taking a lot of risk, but mostly the investors are with their money.
What are the most important factors when deciding to invest in entrepreneurs?
Most importantly, they look at the management team first and make sure that they're able to run a successful business, not just the product itself, but being able to properly make it successful. And then secondly, they look for a very large marketplace and make sure that there's a need for the product.
So they look for an explicit need for a certain product or a bunch of products, or what exactly product are they looking for?
Yep, they look for an explicit need product. They don't look for an implied need product because there is no market for that.
Okay. For those of you who don't know, an explicit need is something that is needed to solve a major problem. An implied need is creating a solution to a problem that doesn't exist at this point.
What do you think makes a successful entrepreneur?
First off, you have to be a punctual person and demand respect from a group of cooperative members.
What does a punctual person do so well?
A punctual person puts you in a position to have the right to demand respect from others you are working with. This leads to the instant reject criteria.
Which is?
Instant reject criteria is to have time in determining who they want to deal with and who they don't.
That's it.
Reject.
Tell us about your experience being an entrepreneur.
Okay, basically by the definition I gave you, I'm not really an entrepreneur because I'm not trying to grow my business, at least yet. Maybe in retirement I'll try to do that where I'm involving a lot of other people, although I do have some art that hangs in galleries and so on. In a sense, I've got people that are working for me trying to sell my art, but it's not quite the same thing. I took a hobby, and what I did with my hobby was I tried to make it so that it could pay for itself and add a little extra income to the family. So the way I did that is I thought fairly skilled at what I do, began to go to some art fairs. You have to have a layout of capital to buy the equipment, the tents, the paint, and then get into the art fairs. And then you're trying to produce a commodity that will, not just meet that cost, but then exceed that cost so that you can then, add that income to my salary. So what I'm doing is I'm working, I guess maybe as sort of it's not really an entrepreneur, but it's entrepreneurial in the sense that I'm trying to augment my income with my own business, which it's a hobby that does a little bit more than pays for itself, and it allows me to travel and do some things that I couldn't do without that business.
So would you consider yourself successful with what you're trying to do?
As far as my goals right now are concerned, I'm successful. If my goals become to be, nationally famous and be able to actually make a living from my art, I'm not anywhere there. But I'm hoping that when I'm ready to retire, I will be able to supplement my modest retirement savings and Social Security with a business that will allow me to maintain my relatively modest lifestyle, but still be able to travel and feed myself and enjoy what I do. I really enjoy teaching, but art is a way I really enjoy relaxing, and if I could figure out how to turn relaxing into a way to make a living, I've got it made.
Yeah. What, in your opinion, what do you think separates a successful entrepreneur from one who fails?
I think probably, well, luck sometimes. Sometimes it's just flat out dumb luck. Somebody comes up with a great idea and somebody, comes up with something slightly better, or the great idea suddenly becomes outdated by a new technology or something. But I think most of the time a good entrepreneur, a successful entrepreneur, had a good plan going in, knew what the goals were, knew how much work it was going to be to make those goals, and was willing to put in the elbow grease. I think a lot of entrepreneurs fail because they don't realize it's an 80-hour or 90-hour week, and they're trying to get out of that 40-hour week, and they want to do less, not more. But I think most entrepreneurs have to, if they're going to make their goals, realize they have to put in the time. My goals are simple right now, and they're very manageable. To make it into something where I can make a living, I'm going to be putting in 60, 70, 89, about as much time as I put in teaching, and I can't do both at the same time. And I'm not, the other thing, maybe I should have mentioned this before, entrepreneurs are people who are willing to take risks, because to really do my art as a business at full time, there's a big risk there, you're not going to make it. So you got to be able to, and you got to be resilient. That's another quality of an entrepreneur, somebody that when you hit bottom, you can bounce. Right now I don't know how bounceable I am, so I'm trying to keep my goals maintainable. I mean, if my business were to fail, I'd still have my income here to make up any debt I might accrue from that. I wouldn't go into, major debt or anything because of failure. So I think goal setting is number one. Elbow grease is probably number two. And, wrapped around or tied around both those like a bow is the ability to take risks and be bounceable when the risks don't work out.
Emery, what's your definition of an entrepreneur?
My definition of an entrepreneur, I think it's when you are your own boss and you own your own company, and you may or may not have employees under you, but you control all the phases of business, sales, production, and all the bookwork and everything.
Tell us about your experience being an entrepreneur.
I worked on my own as a sign painter and graphic designer, and I don't know, for several years, and it was kind of a rough road, but it has its ups and downs.
Do you feel that you had a lot of success as an entrepreneur?
Like I say, it was up and down. Like in the summer, I had a lot of business, and then it'd slow down in the winter. And the thing is, you don't have, if you never punch out and go home because it's your business. So, there'd be all-nighters and some long hours and lots of expenses. You have to pay your own expenses, but in the end, there's a lot of satisfaction.
What factors do you think can make or break you as an entrepreneur?
Organization, which sometimes I struggle with, and just the drive, actually, to go out there and do it.